All right. Yay. Welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Fridays. I am super jazzed. I used the word jazzed in an email this morning too.
Jazz.
I can't decide if I like it or not, but I used it in an email. But I'm jazzed to have my friend and coach and mentor, Holly Haynes, here to have an unfiltered conversation that she and I were kind of chatting about back and forth in Voxer about client boundaries. But when we say client boundaries, I think what we're going to get into is as a service provider or a coach, the taking on the responsibility for your client's success and results. And as a kind human who cares about other humans, how hard that can be and how hard it can be for us to even set boundaries for ourselves so that we have the energy to show up the way we need to in our business. So, Holly, I'm excited to dive in and talk about this with you. For anybody who doesn't know you, although I feel like my listeners do because we chat about all the time what my coach Holly told me, but share with everybody just a really quick kind of who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are in your business today.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me back on the podcast. My name is Holly Haynes. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. And I like to say that I help you build a full-time business on a part-time schedule. And mainly that's because I feel like a lot of business owners start their business while they're working full-time, while they're in a corporate job, while they have lots of kids, and we don't have 40 hours to build our business. So I have a 22-year corporate strategy background, and in the height of COVID, I decided it's a great time to start a new business. And I did it on very part-time hours, and since then have been able to retire myself and my husband, and we run our business together. And I do it with really simple strategy. So I like to say I take like the MBA textbook version of strategy and I turn it into these are the 3 steps that you can do right now. So that's what I teach.
Yeah. And Holly does such a great job of taking those 3 steps or 5 steps or 1 step or whatever they are and making it actionable and holding you accountable. And I know when we first started working together, that was one of the things that I so appreciated about you is that you were like, you don't have to see the entire staircase. Like, let's just take 1 step. Let's just take 1 more step. And I will often remind myself of that when I'm sitting down to work on a project and I have a 9-page to-do list.
Right.
And I'm like, let's just take 1 step and we'll then take the next one.
I love that.
Yeah. So as a coach and as a service provider, I think what happens is, and I think this happens to us in corporate too. I know it happened to me in corporate.
Yeah.
Like my identity was the success of the company that I worked for. And I know for me, when I left my corporate job because we had issues with my son. And I remember my husband and I having a conversation of like, that was the universe's way of getting you to leave because you were never going to leave on your own because you cared so much about what you were building for that company. Did you experience kind of like similar loyalties when you were in corporate and like having a hard time of letting go when you made the decision to finally leave?
I didn't at the end, but I think again because it was in the height of COVID and like the world was shutting down and there were like bigger problems happening. But I do think at different phases in my career, and I think just as women in any sort of leadership role, we think that we have to carry everyone with us, right? We think like was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about like climbing a mountain, and if you pass somebody on the mountain, that's like having a hard time, right? Like you don't know their story. You don't know why they're having a hard time. You don't know why they're pausing. You don't know why they're taking a break. So it's not your responsibility to like carry them up to the top of the mountain because you don't know if they want to get to the top. Like maybe the middle is okay, or maybe they're fine with taking a break for a couple of weeks. And so I think a lot of times we think like I'm a fixer, like I like to fix everyone's problems. I don't like conflict. And I think we think like, well, I have to fix all these things and I don't want to do this thing or I don't want to say this thing because I don't want to let them down. And I would rather just avoid having like awkward conversations. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Or it's just easier to keep doing what I'm doing. But I think in the end, it's really not because you're like building up this resentment of you're just really nervous to face the feelings of what's actually going to happen when you do walk up the mountain and maybe everyone doesn't come with you. but that's okay because
Yeah.
maybe they don't want to.
Yeah, that's such a good point that maybe they don't want to. And that conversation about like feeling the feelings, having the hard conversations, saying the things. Like my husband and I were chatting about this, and he's in a project management role now, and he's like, when you're in school, like they didn't teach you like how to have hard conversations with
Right.
humans. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. They didn't. But even if they did, I don't think at 20, my brain would have been fully
Yeah.
developed to even like comprehend that and learn it and remember it to be able to use it 20 years down the road.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, awkward conversations are awkward for a reason, right? And I think as women, we do everything we possibly can to avoid it. But as soon as we have the conversation, I personally feel like instant relief, like
Mm-hmm.
anxiety gone, because we actually said what we needed to say in a very supportive, kind way. It doesn't have to be, awkward conversations don't have to be negative, right? Like
Yeah.
they're awkward and you have it and then you move on.
Yeah. And when we think about like the things that you do as a coach or the things that I do as a service provider, like we're there to help guide you or support you in one area of your business. But your
Yeah.
business, like it's an ecosystem and there's a lot of other areas that might need work too that like it's not my responsibility or accountability to fix for you.
Right.
Sometimes it's maybe that like, hey, I see something's not working over here that needs to be addressed. But like, it's not marketing's job to fix your offer if you don't have a good offer.
Right. Yeah, I think, as a coach, you obviously want everyone to have success and you want them to see success. I mean, when your clients have success, that's when you typically see success. But you're right, you can't control all the factors. I can control some of the factors and I can share with you the steps, but there's so many other pieces and parts that go to it. One of the things we share a lot in our group is you control your energy, not the outcome. So I can control how I show up. I can control that on the days when I have client calls, I don't do anything else. Like I'm 100% here for my clients. I'm doing all of this for my clients. I'm like, joining other coaches and learning and continuing to pour myself into so that I can better support my clients. I can control that. I can't control the outcome. I wish I could. I say that all the time. Like, I wish I could tell you, you could do these 10 things and then this will happen, but you can't. But I will say you can control your energy. So you can control your energy around having the conversations. You can control your energy on how you show up. The other thing I will say, just in terms of like having these conversations or just getting nervous, right? That like maybe your clients aren't getting the results that you think that they should be getting. You can't want it more than they do. So, and my husband and I, we go on a walk every morning. We were talking about this morning, and it wasn't about any of my clients specifically. He's in real estate and he was talking about some of his clients. And I was like, but you can't want it more than they do, right? Like there's this amazing house and it's available and you got to like make moves fast, but you can't want it more than they do. Like there has to be some accountability on the other side. And I think sometimes when we sign up for programs or whatever, we're like, well, this person's going to deliver the golden ticket. There is no golden ticket. I wish there was. But when you sign up for it, you have to commit. Like you have to go all in and say, I'm going to 100% commit to this thing. And that commitment, that energy is what's going to get you the outcome.
Yeah, that's so true. And sometimes it's like the client, maybe they do want it, but there's stuff going on that we don't even know
Yeah.
about in the background
Right.
that like we can't necessarily help with, but we can just provide the support that we can provide and control our own energy. Any like, because I know you're all about tactical
Yeah.
action steps, like tactical action steps to release that like wanting it more than they do.
Yeah, this is so hard for me. I mean, we're having like honest conversations because my husband's always like, you become friends with everybody, Holly. Like, you can't do that. And I was like, but I want to be friends with people. So I think for me, like I set very strict boundaries of when I'm answering messages, when I'm not answering messages. I have past clients who now work for me or people that like we're all integrated. And so I think like setting boundaries of, okay, this is what we're talking about right now. We're not going to talk about other things. or hey, this is when I'm available to have these conversations, or this is when I'm available to answer your question. So for me, it really all comes down to boundaries and when I'm available, when I'm not available, and communicating. I think the biggest thing is communicating, like, what are those boundaries, and what happens if you need more than that or less than that. Like, how do you have a conversation about that? So I think it's
Yeah.
it's educating your clients of, this is where I can help you and this is where I can't, and this is when I'm available and this is when I'm not. But I think also, and this even goes back to my corporate days, is you have to train people to understand when you're available. So if you say you're available Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, let's say, but then you start answering messages at 8 o'clock at night, they're going to start thinking, and this is the same in the corporate world, oh, she's answering messages. I can send her a message. I'll get an answer by tomorrow morning. So you have to, like, I mean, you can set your own rules, right? But if you're answering a message at 8 o'clock at night and you normally don't, you can say, hey, I normally don't answer this at 8 o'clock at night. I usually will say this, but I have a full day of meetings tomorrow. So I want to make sure that I'm getting you an answer, before the day starts. So it's setting those boundaries, but it's also following them so that you're almost training people of, like, if you guys are in our Voxer thread, you know that I most likely answer messages first thing in the morning. Like, you'll see it happen every single day. And so you can start to train your clients of when you're available and what those boundaries are.
Yeah. And a lot of times, and I know we've talked about this within our group of like the boundaries, they're as much for you as they are for the client. Like, very likely the client's going to be like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you have to set them and remind yourself and hold yourself accountable to them, because that's what's protecting your energy. And it's
Yeah.
hard to do.
Yeah. I mean, I could work 24/7 if I was just saying yesterday, like, because I knew I had a lot of interviews today. And so I answered all my messages last night. And then I just peeked at it like before I went to bed, which I normally don't do. And I was like, oh my God, there's like 17 more messages. And my husband's like, Holly, you can't, like, it is what it is. Like, your boundaries are your boundaries. Like, you'll check them tomorrow afternoon. Like, that's, it's a 24-hour cycle. So you have to, like, really stick to your boundaries as well. Otherwise, I feel like coaching in general could become so overwhelming because there's always something. Like, there's always something that you can improve on or help somebody with. Like, you could literally work 24/7.
Yeah. And, you talked about like you become friends with a lot of your clients. And I even remember this from like retail management days. Like, I was friends with my whole staff. Like, I was the store manager, but like I hung out with people. Like, we'd go for drinks together and we'd hang out at each other's house. And there would be times that I would have to say like, hey, I have to put on my boss hat for a second while we have this conversation. And I think you do a good job of that, of like, hey, I'm sharing this with you as your friend. Like,
Yeah.
because those lines do start to cross.
Yeah, I'll frame the conversations. Like, for the most part, like, I'll give an example. So we use Slack for our team, but like, I'm friends with people that are on our team. And so I'll be like, hey, we're using Slack for just business, right? If I text you, then it's most likely personal or an emergency, right? If you get a text from me, you're probably like, what the heck? Or if we use Voxer, it's maybe more personal than it is. So inside Slack, we know like the boundaries are, it's all business. So that way they can set their boundaries as well. And they know, hey, if something's sitting in Slack, then that's when I am working on Holly's business, versus if she's texting me something about Real Housewives or something like that, then it's, it's a different topic. So
yeah, I'm curious how those boundaries work with you having your husband on your team, because he also lives so with you.
It ebbs and flows. I feel like in the summer season, our boundaries just sucked, if I'm being honest, because the girls were home and we're trying to have a financial meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning. They're watching YouTube and then we're going to the pool. Like, it was like all over the place. But the girls went back to school this week. So we reset and we said, like, I have an agenda that we follow. It's in ClickUp. I taught him how to use ClickUp yesterday. Like, we have set time on the calendar, and we had done this before, before the summer. But I mean, sometimes boundaries get blurred and then you're like, okay, this isn't working. I need to reset. So I think that's a good reminder as you transition into seasons, like, what are your boundaries this season and how do you reset them? For me, though, at least for us, we have to like really balance. I mean, we could talk about business all day long. And so a lot of times it'll be like Friday afternoon and I'm like, I'm done for like 48 hours. I just need like a break. It doesn't mean that I'm not working on things, but we're not having like deep conversations. Or if I have this like amazing idea on a Saturday afternoon, I'll be like, hey, I need to break the rule for a minute. I want to tell you about this. Is that okay? Like, so we're sort of like checking in with each other.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You know, I'm curious too, as like we think about boundaries and your team members respecting boundaries, your clients respecting boundaries. You've now worked with a lot of different clients, a lot of different business owners. You've got, you know, probably over 50 members that have gone through your mastermind. And I remember being in college and like reading something or learning something about, and I go back to the saying a lot of the customer's always right, but not everyone's the right customer.
Yeah.
And so if somebody is not respecting those boundaries, like quite honestly, they're probably not the right fit. And
Yeah.
as like somebody who sometimes is a people pleaser, how do you like remind yourself that not every customer is the right customer?
Yeah, I'm definitely a people pleaser. And I will say when this happens, usually what happens is I start to people please and then I burn out and I'm like, this is not sustainable, but also it's not helping them. Because at some point, as a business owner, when you're a coach, you have to like give the strategy, but I can't do it for them, right? Like they have to take ownership and do it and learn and then ask questions, or they're never going to be able to do it on their own. Um, so I'm getting better at it. Long story short, I think as you like go through it and as you have more clients, you start to see the signs of where people are maybe pushing the boundaries. Like it doesn't all happen at once. Like you start to notice like, okay, like they're asking for this and this and this special thing and this special thing. And once is fine, twice is maybe okay, but three times it's like, come on. And so I think I'm more aware of the signs and have really gone back to at the beginning, making sure that I communicate very clearly. This is when I'm available. This is what I'm not. This is what I'm going to teach you. Like it's almost like a scope document in like the project management world of like, this is what we're doing and this is what we're not. And so it makes it much easier to have those like weird conversations because I could be like, hey, just a reminder, this is how this works. If you have any questions, let me know. So I can always revert back to this is how we set this up for us both to be successful. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah. And if we kind of go back to those like red flags that you start to see, I think you start to learn that like if we've got a red flag situation, unfortunately, it's taking your energy away from those dream clients, from those unicorn clients. And so like you've got to be able to stop it in its tracks so that you have energy to call in the right people.
Yeah, and I think I love that you called it a red flag. I think of like the red flag on the beach. Like you could go in the water and you would probably be fine, but do you really want to, right? Like is it going to take away from some other like cool vacation experience if you get like attacked by a shark or something? Like maybe. So I think it's like asking yourself like, you know, is it a 50-50 relationship? And if it's not, like how do you make it so that it is? Because it really should be a 50-50 relationship. If you're in a conversation or coaching or service with somebody and you're like dragging them along, then it's not. And you've got to figure out how to bring it back.
Yeah, for sure. And those red flags, like because it's such an energy thing, you have to think about from a messaging perspective, like what is your messaging and your branding so that you're attracting the right people and repelling the red flags so that they don't even want to work with you.
And I think sometimes, you know, we get nervous of saying like, this is for you if, this is not for you if this. And it's okay to say, hey, this is not for you. Like I teach a program called Anti-Social School. If you love social media and you're like obsessed with it, like maybe that's not the right program for you because I talk about other ways to grow, which is totally okay. Like there are different ways to do things. And I think we get nervous that if we say this isn't for you, or a lot of times you'll see people say like, if you meet these requirements, this is a good fit for you. And we get nervous to say that. Like I even get nervous to say that. But what it's doing is it's telling somebody if they're a good fit for your community or your service. And so it's actually helping in the long run.
Yeah. And I think all of this, like, and I talk so much about the fact that mindset is the foundation for a successful marketing strategy, but this all goes back to abundance mindset. And that there are plenty of clients. There is plenty of business out there. And I was having a conversation with another mentor yesterday, and she was like, okay, Ruthie, how many retainer clients do you need to hit your revenue goals? And I was like, I need 3 more. And she was like, 3.
Yeah.
Not 300, not 3,000. You know, there's like 3 billion people that could potentially be your clients. You only need 3. There's plenty out there.
Yeah, and I think we get like wrapped up into things and we're like, I always say one person can change the game. Literally, one person can change the game for you. So how can you share like how does that one person help you? How can you help that one person?
Yeah, for sure. All right. This is like all the little nuggets of mindset goodness that Holly and I talk about. This is like our Voxer thread on steroids. So before we wrap up, and I do want to have some kind of fun, unfiltered conversation just about the things that we're loving right now. This is more like that friend stuff.
Yes.
And I know you mentioned Real Housewives. So I would love to know, like, what's a current show or recent show that you have been like super into that you're loving?
Yeah, I feel like we're in between shows right now. I mean, I do watch Real Housewives. The Beverly Hills one is my favorite. It's not on right now. But I'm really loving the new New York one. Like, I'm obsessed with it. The reason why is they're like real career women. Like, they all have their own business and they're like significant businesses. Like, Jenna, who's one of the main characters, was like an ex J. Crew executive, and I don't know, I just love behind the scenes of people's lives of like, well, what do you actually do? And I realize it's Real Housewives and probably not real, but I love that. And my girls and I have been rewatching episodes of Hometown. It's on the Magnolia Network. It's a decorating show. They they live in this like really tiny town of Mississippi, and they redo houses. And it's been really cool. They started to get into it mainly because I was like, you're not watching YouTube, so let's find another show. And it's inspired us to like redo some projects in our house. So
yeah, that's fun. So that town where they live in Laurel, Mississippi.
Yeah.
So you have to follow Landon Talks on Instagram. He also lives in Laurel, Mississippi.
Oh yeah.
And he teaches you and talks about like the way of the South. And it's just like light and fun and entertaining. And our friend Kathy introduced me to him and shared some of his content. And it always makes me laugh. And so funny story about Kathy, like she just had surgery and he announced on his Instagram that he was doing cameos. I have never purchased a cameo, and I purchased one from him to send to Kathy.
Oh, that's awesome.
To like, hey, I hope you're doing good. And like, you know, you might could do this. And it's just fun. Like, I'm like kind of from the South. I'm not. I'm from the Midwest and I live in Florida. But like, I love that like Southern culture. So yeah, Hometown's a good one.
It's just like, I don't know. It's like a very like just motivating show. It's all about like family and making an impact and making a difference and like doing things you love. So it's been fun. We started rewatching them.
That's awesome. Okay, so along with shows, we all love to binge snacks. So I would love to know, what is your current like go-to snack or something that you're loving?
Yeah, I go through like a big bag of Costco Skinny Pop butter popcorn about once a week. It's not the worst snack for you. I feel like you can feel good about eating a full bag of it. But yeah, I love popcorn. It takes me back to like the Scandal days. I don't know if you ever watched the show Scandal, where like at the end of the day she has a glass of red wine and popcorn. Like that's my like treat at the end of the day.
Yes, I did watch Scandal, but I don't think I ever finished it. I think I got to the last season and then I was like, this is getting a little too crazy. I need to go back and finish it.
Yeah, so a good bowl of popcorn.
Yes, that's a fun one. Okay, so along with your snack, what are your current go-to beverages? And I'd love to know both an adult beverage and a non-adult beverage.
Oh, so I get really bad migraines, and so I haven't actually been drinking alcohol in a while, and I found this brand called Recess. It's RECESS, and they have these non-alcoholic margaritas. And so I've been playing with those a little bit. And then my like go-to drink of the summer was cherry Coke Zero. I gave up Diet Coke for like 15 years and then randomly bought this. And now I have one a day, every day at like 3 o'clock. I'm like,
That's
I don't
so
know
funny.
what's happening, but
After our retreat in February, so Holly's mastermind retreat in February was in Clearwater, which is near me. And so we were cleaning out the fridge and all this stuff, and there was all this Diet Coke. And she's like, Ruthie, just take this home. Like, I don't want to throw it away. And I was the same way. I had not drank Diet Coke in probably like 20 years. And I took it home and it had like a Diet Coke a day for
yeah.
like 3 weeks. And I'm like, okay, I have to stop.
Yeah, I don't know how bad it is for you, but
I'm curious, have you tried Olipop's yet?
I have. I like them. They're really expensive though. And I was like,
They
I don't know
are.
if I can justify like a $5 sparkling beverage a day.
Yeah, they are. I actually didn't like the cherry cola, which I was disappointed in. It was the only
Yeah.
flavor I didn't like that I've tried. But I liked a diet cherry vanilla Coke from Dairy Queen.
Oh,
Like with
yeah,
the
that
syrup.
sounds
That was good. So,
very
okay.
good.
And then my last question, I know that traveling is something that is important to you. You have a goal of traveling once a quarter. And so I'd love to know what is a trip that you have coming up that you're excited about.
Yeah, so we haven't like planned the whole thing, but the girls turn 10 in October, and I think we're gonna surprise them and take them to Universal Studios to Harry Potter World. Which is like a whole thing, and I'm not an expert, so if you know anything about it, let me know. So I think we're gonna do that in October. We want to go abroad again, but my husband and I's 20th wedding anniversary is in 2.5 years. So our goal is to take the whole family to Greece. That's our like big goal.
Oh my gosh,
So,
that would be amazing. Harry
we'll
Potter
see.
World will also be amazing. It's fun. And October is like the perfect time
I
to go to
know.
Florida.
It's
So,
the
yes,
best
they
month.
will
It's so
they
good.
will love that. If you surprise them, will you like tell them when you get there or like tell them
I don't
before
know.
they
I
get on
haven't
the
thought
plane?
through it yet, but I think our goal was to tell them like, "Oh, mommy has a conference. We thought it would just be fun for you to go with us." They love Florida. And then you can like book these packages where you get to like eat breakfast at like the Leaky Cauldron, and you can like design your own wand, and you can ride like the Hogwarts Express. And we took them to London last year, and so we saw the real like 9 3/4 platform, and they're just like really into it, and I know it's probably not going to last very much longer, so I want to like take advantage of it while we can.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Greg and I are terrible about keeping secrets from Noah. Like anytime we have a surprise, Greg always spoils it and tells him
I'm
because
not
he just
good at
like
it either.
can't keep it in. And his aunts got him like a paintball, are gonna take him paintballing for his birthday. And they told us, and then Greg told Noah, and then Noah was like, Mommy, I have to tell you a secret, but Daddy told me not to tell. And I was like, it's okay, buddy, you can tell me. And he's like, Aunt Nene, Nick, you're gonna get me paintballing, but Daddy told me not to tell. I said, listen, Daddy told you because he can't keep a secret, just like
gosh.
you are having a hard time keeping a secret.
That's hilarious.
So, oh my gosh. Okay. This was so much fun. I thank you so much for being on Unfiltered Friday and having these kind of raw and real conversations about the stuff that we all are dealing with that maybe we're not talking about or sharing publicly that we deal with. If people are interested in learning more and connecting with you, where can they find you and how can they learn more?
Yeah, just go to hollymaryhaynes.com. We actually have this really fun, like, interactive video now where you can just, like, chat with me, ask me questions. I'm there answering all the things. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And if you guys ever have questions about what it's like to work with Holly, be in the mastermind, be in the club, I'm an open book. I'm happy to share and chat through with you if it's the right fit for you or not, being that I've gone through a lot of it.
Yes, thank you, Ruthie.
All right. Thank you.